Hi, good morning, and welcome to the Global BTI Summit, sponsored by Valent Biosciences. We're very excited to have you guys here. We have a really good program today. We are going to be bringing together some leading experts to address perceived challenges of using BTI, highlighting the science behind it, as well as discussing some strategies for communicating its benefits effectively. The agenda today, let's move into that. Will include an overview of biorationals and pesticides by Dr. Roma Gwynn, the director of the Rationale Biopesticide Strategists. Then we'll move into the role of BTI in vector control by Dr. Norbert Becker, director of the German Mosquito Control Association. And then vector control in the EU by Sébastien Chouin, the head of the Mosquito and Vector Control Department of the County Council of, I am going to butcher this, so I apologize, La Charente-Maritime. And then we'll go into using BTI on protected lands in the Florida Keys with Mikki Coss, the operations director from the Florida Keys Mosquito Control District. And then we'll go into communicating vector control and BTI to the community with Adriane Rogers, the director of the Pasco Mosquito Control District in the United States. So without further ado, we're going to move to Dr. Roma Gwynn. She is a biorational technology and IPM specialist. She's been working in this area for over 40 years, initially as a research scientist and then working for industry, and now as an independent technology, and now is helping facilitate the process of getting biorational technology into the hands of farmers by streamlining biodiscovery, product development, registration, efficacy testing, and marketing. Roma was the vice president of International Biocontrol Manufacturers Association for 6 years and was editor of the BCPC Manual of Biocontrol Agents. She has had or still holds board positions for a UK grower organization, 4 bioinnovation companies, and 3 scientific societies. So with that, we are going to welcome Roma. Good morning, Roma.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for asking me to join today.
We're very excited to have you. Hopefully your presentation had finished uploading, so we'll go ahead. Great. I'll turn the floor over to you. Thank you, Roma.
Yeah, thank you very much for asking me to join. So whilst I'm just waiting, the slides have now uploaded. So I'd like to talk this morning, this afternoon, depending where you are, a little bit about the what are biorational substances and what's the context, what's happening in the world with them. I work primarily in Europe, but also across America, across Africa, Australia, New Zealand. So I sort of have a broad perspective of what's going on with the technologies. I'm just trying to... Yeah. Sorry, some of the pictures are gone. So the situation we're in the world at the moment is that we have more than 8 billion people, and we know that the food production's got to increase by 70% to feed the growing population. And we also know for vector-borne diseases that over 70% of all infectious diseases, that there's over 700,000 deaths annually, and that's possibly a slight underestimate of the problem. So the world faces big problems both in food production and also in management of diseases for humans. And the position we're in now is sort of thinking, well, what technologies do we have available? If we think about plant protection or crop losses, we know that we're losing 30 to 40% of the crops before harvest, and we're losing more than 10% after harvest. We know that this is an incredible cost to agriculture of over 220 billion per year, and then the cost to human health is sort of over 94 billion. So it says, well, we have these systems for managing pests and diseases, but actually they're slightly, the processes we're using now, even with the best technology, we're not being successful in really managing the problems. And it always makes me reflect, as saying, well, if I had a model that was failing 30 or 40% of the time, would I keep using the model? And that's sort of what we've been doing. I know that the high input system of fertilizers, varieties, and synthetic pesticides really helped the world and moved on from poverty. But since then, we've actually been quite static in the model that we've used and the approaches that we've taken. And I think we're in a really interesting point in the world where we're realizing that the models don't work. So we're both changing the technologies we have, and we're also changing the models which we work. And I'm going to explore a little bit about that and what that means. So one of the things we look at, if we look at the global markets, we can see there's a lot of different figures. I think Dunham Trimmer do quite a good job of looking at the figures, but you have differences as to what technologies get included when you talk about biocontrol or biorationals, etc. But what is clear is that the combined annual growth rate is growing. There's variation by how much, but it is growing. The forecasts have been sitting around about 20% for the last decade or so, and the markets are actually meeting that. So the market for these technologies is growing fast, and the projected market value for these is high. Sorry, I'm just... Right. Yeah. So if the market's increasing, it means these technologies have been taken up. So what are the reasons why the technologies are taken up? And there are multiple reasons why they've been taken up. Such as around the mode of action in terms of the different modes of action of how it manages pests and diseases. And we're not always looking to kill the pest or disease. What we're looking to do is to manage the population. So that might be by repellency, by reducing the attractiveness of the crop, and all these technologies are coming forward. The biorationals fit very well in an IPM or IVM approach because of target specificity, that you're not that you can balance them with other technology you're putting in the system. We're seeing a lot of interesting mode of action. Oftentimes the biorational substances don't have residues, so that helps with residue management, which means that you can you can use the technologies closer to harvest. But it also means that you can have greater contact between humans and the products that you're using, because you're not having adverse effects on operators and workers, for example. And a lot of the times the technologies, they comply with organic standards. So what are the kind of technologies that we're talking about here? So we're traditionally used to talking about macroorganisms, which is the use of insects, natural enemies, against other natural enemies, sort of ladybirds eating larvae. We've seen a lot of development of plant extracts so extracting substances from plants, and these are called botanicals, plant extracts, and these can be relatively pure. We've got 98% purity. Sort of, you see that with a cold pressed orange oil, with eugenol, geraniol, thymol, something like that, all the way through to something which is much more complex because it's the total plant extract. It contains everything that came from the plant. And we may never know within that mixture what is creating the effect, but it is all the components. Then, of course, we have microorganisms. This is a really well-known group of microorganisms. A well-known group of biorationals. And what we have is we'll have bacteria, fungi, and viruses against bacteria, fungi, and virus, and against insects. The newest development in these is bacteriophage, which is the bacterial viruses. We see those starting to come onto the market. But there's a lot of innovation around these technologies. There's a lot of innovation in terms of finding new species, but also then thinking about how these are produced, and different production methods can lead to different types of active substances that can be used. So you see some which are the total fermented product. So the microorganism's gone in the fermenter, it's used everything in the fermenter is in the product, through to others which are very refined. They're a refined spore powder that's used, or that you're using just one component of the microorganism. Then we've also sort of starting to see higher organisms being used as people are looking at sort of mushrooms, wild collected mushrooms, and looking at to extract the components from them, so that we also can see within that microorganism, lower and higher microorganism category, we can see the secondary compounds being used, and these may be, again, more or less refined. And nowadays we're starting to see come forward the peptides and proteins and the RNAs. There's only a few actually coming forward onto the marketplace. A lot of these are under development, and a lot of these are in innovation, and they're just slowly coming forward. Then if we sort of think about how these are coming to the market, something with, just to illustrate this, if I look at some data from the European Union and looking at the rate of development and of active substance approvals, we can see that if we look at the green box, this is the biopesticides, the blue is the others. What we can see is the proportion of active substances coming forward is increasingly the biorational substances. What we can also see in the European Union is the rate of approval of the substances is not really changing. And this does create an issue. But what we have the situation now in Europe, again, if we're looking at that, we're sort of saying that over 40% of the plant protection products that come forward for approval by a controller, I'm hearing that's now getting close to 50%. We can see that the majority of substances coming forward were initially for insects, but now that's been taken over by technologies coming forward for fungi. Real gaps around technologies for weeds and for nematodes, and then there's a few other sort of technologies coming forward. I'd say that what we're seeing in Europe is represented globally, this same ratio of the types of substances coming forward. And when I look across different regulatory authorities about the number of new actives coming forward, I'm seeing that it's increasing, and it's not unusual to be getting towards the 50% of the new technologies coming forward are biocontrol substances. But as we look at them coming forward and think about the product development pathway and what's happening with innovation, what I'm talking about here is the technology readiness levels. And traditionally, if we look at this sort of scheme that was developed by NASA about how to think about the product development pathway and how technologies are coming forward and how fast they're coming forward, it's actually a really long and slow process. So what I see is there's an incredible amount of innovation. So there's a lot of people working at the TRL levels 1, 2, and 3, and maybe getting to 4. And it's highly innovative. It's looking really widely at what biorationals are. But then they seem to have this stall phase where they're trying to get past that 4, 5, and 6 stage, which is the proof of concept, starting to build out into larger trials, looking to have additional investment coming in, and the timeline starts to slow down. And then when you get to sort of 7, 8, 9, where you're looking at, okay, how do we register something? How do we show proof of concept in the field? It really slows down. And then you hit registration, it's getting really, really quite slow. And so whilst we have this high level of innovation around the world, we're seeing, and I'm seeing investments going into that very early stage. The investment for that middle stage is really slowed down, and a lot of technologies are getting stuck in this space. There's a lot of reasons for that. I'm sure a lot of you know what those reasons are. But one of the things that is a drag on the development of the new technologies is registration. So I just kind of pulled together this look at what's going on around the world, and it's quite interesting to see that most countries are working on the 2 to 3 year time frame for getting something registered. Now that's quite a long time, because it means you've done all your development work, you've invested very heavily in your product development, you've invested very heavily in your registration, and you've got to go through this period of registration where you're not able to generate any funds. And if you look at the European Union sitting at 5 to 10 years, the real question is how on earth does a company, how does a new technology survive when you've got such a pause in innovation? But also it means that the farmers are not getting these new technologies they need to support what they're doing in plant protection and what they're doing in vector control. Some countries are showing illustrations of going really fast. I mean, we all know that the USA has had the biopesticide registration scheme for over 30 years now, and they were going fast. I mean, a year ago, they sort of said, we're getting so many applications without an increase in funding. We're going to slow down because we just can't deal with the amount of applications, which is great for innovation, but it's slow for the product development. Brazil has looked at improving the legal system and then the regulatory system, and we can see a big speed up in Brazil about the number of technologies coming forward. And they made their change in about 2013, 2014, and we can see that the number of active substances coming forward has tripled and quadrupled in that time. So Brazil now has the highest number of active substances available, sitting at well over 600. When you compare that to somewhere like Europe, which is looking at 200, slightly above, the US is about 350, 400 of these technologies coming available. So we can see pockets of really good practice. We can see really good examples of how we have a facilitating environment in countries, and this makes a big difference. If you have a government that facilitates the technologies and facilitates the and supports the biorationals coming forward, it really helps, because they're not the same as the chemical technologies. They are more complex, more knowledge intense, and they need a different skill set, and you need a highly skilled set of people. But we have that problem is that chicken and egg is with the regulators, train people if they only got a few applications. And it's taken a while for there to be enough applications, for there to be specialist trained people, but we can see that starting to come in. And what I'd like to see, if I had to look around the world, is we see more of the situation in the US and in Brazil, where you have a separate regulatory agency or separate processes for biorationals with skilled people, and can speed up the process of taking them forward to the market. Just moving on and thinking, what's that regulatory drag doing to the development of technology and the availability of technology? So we can, if we think about microorganisms, we currently have systems and provisions for these. We've seen an update in the European Union of the new data provisions for these. We're seeing that micrometabolites only coming forward. There is some provisions for those. They go through the system as chemicals, but they're obviously complex mixtures. Given that they're derived from microorganisms, it's quite usual to have rapid degradation with them, so they're not highly persistent systems. So you can take a different approach to the regulation. I'm also seeing a lot of work being done for using microorganisms as what I call biofactories, which is where the microorganism has been genetically engineered, usually to overexpress a particular secondary compound, or to put in the genes for coding for a compound, and they're used as a mechanism for developing quite complex substances. There is some regulatory provisions for those, but less. That takes a lot more explaining. For selected microorganisms with GM, we're not seeing those coming to the market yet. I'm not seeing a clear regulatory pathway for it outside of the US for those types of technologies. For botanicals, complex mixtures, we're seeing that there is a regulatory provisions. It is still difficult, though, because you were dealing with complex mixture, and the regulatory systems were set up to deal with single substances. Synthesized botanical mixtures, beginning to see this coming onto the market. That's fairly new. And of course, the large category of semiochemicals, they go through as chemicals, but there are now provisions to make it simpler and saying, well, you don't need to provide certain pieces of information. So again, we're seeing differences in practice that are trying to unlock and how to get these technologies available. But in terms of policy, sorry, some of the slides haven't come through, but in terms of policy, this is an example of an interesting paper where they're looking at what is the drag on governments moving forward in policy and speeding up in the transition to biocontrol, and why is it taking so long? And I think it's worth sort of thinking about this and thinking that we're working in this wider policy context, and how do we influence policy to be more facilitating for these technologies? How do we get governments to put more money to support them, not just in terms of the research and innovation, product development, but in terms of the regulatory pathways and delivery into farmers? So when we think about biorationals that we actually have and how they move forward, I wanted to look at, well, we talk about integrated pest management, integrated vector management, and we talk about it as saying it's something new. And I sort of spent some time a little while ago thinking, well, when was this concept first considered? And it was actually in the 1950s. And I put this picture in here as well, because that's how they were planting potatoes in the 1950s. And I think it's clear to all of us that agriculture and technology has moved on a long time since then. And integrated pest management is not a new technology. It's not a new approach, but it seems that we're only now really beginning to embrace and implement this well. And it's taken a long time for us to get here. But what does integrated pest management, integrated vector management mean? Well, it's the management of pests and diseases. First of all, we sort of look at what natural populations, what are our preventative practices, how can we change the habitat for the pest or disease? Are we planting the right crop in the right place? We then spend a lot of time, you're meant to spend a lot of time thinking, monitoring, forecasting. And this is an area that's unlocked recently because there's such a good movement in digital technologies to improve monitoring and forecasting, whether this be on a small farm scale or this be on a large landscape scale. We're much better at having good predictive models and understanding pest and disease development. And then you should come in with a physical and mechanical control. So in crops, it's like putting a fleece over a carrot crop to stop the carrot fly, or the use of the treated bed nets. And then if some of these technologies don't work, you come in with biocontrol. And then at the end of that, if that doesn't work, you come with chemical control. Some of this is to preserve the chemical technologies we have, but often because the chemical technologies have a wider unintended effect. So we're trying to reduce that. But what I'm seeing increasingly being developed is the decision to no longer use chemical pesticides. And I know some of the international organizations are trying to move towards a world where they're not using synthesized chemistry or using technologies which are very specialized. So that's the context of IPM, but that IPM and IVM concept is working in quite a new environment. If we just think about plant production, the innovation in plant production methods is really rapid in changing. A lot of this is driven around lack of labour. So it's trying to come up with automated systems that reduce the labour requirement on farms. But some of it is because the technology allows this to happen now. So what we're trying to now do is we're trying to take this integrated vector, integrated pest management technologies into a world in which the world is changing. So again, it increases the complexity of what we're trying to do. So if we think about what's the future of plant production, so we have all these lovely technologies, and we see these new technologies coming forward, like, as I mentioned, the RNAIs, the peptides, the proteins coming forward, refined microorganisms, understanding microorganisms more and understanding which components we need. We have a really unlocking of the potential of these technologies by improvements in digital farming, improvements in forecasting. So we can sort of see if you take some of the use of drones and the ability of drones to work in very cryptic habitats, which previously we couldn't do. But what's also laid on top of that is a increase in research into this area, and in the research for
Roma.
thinking about climate, thinking about varietal responses, defence mechanisms. So as we start to think of this as biologists and not as chemists, we realise that there is a lot more going on in the soil environment of the plant, in the plant variety, in the way in which these technologies can move. And if I had to forecast, I would think in future we will see plants that are bred and that we use technologies to trigger plant defences at specific times. And we will see fields where we have multiple genetic varieties, but they all harvest and crop at the same time.
Roma.
Yep.
Roma, can I interrupt for 1 second? Can I have you speak a little bit louder, if possible?
For me,
Yes,
oh,
please, just a
I'm
little bit
very
louder.
sorry. Is this
That's
better?
okay. Yes, that is
Oh,
better.
so sorry that
Thank
you
you.
can't hear me. Do you want me to go back over anything?
Um, we have some chat, so if people miss some things, they can reach out with the questions. We could hear you. It was just got a little bit low, but that's better. Thank you.
I'm going to move my blind and then I can get closer.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, sunny day. I was probably moving back from the microphone. Yeah. So what I was saying here, if this in a way summarizes a lot of what I'm saying. So we have these really lovely technologies. We've got microorganisms, we've got botanicals, we've got semiochemicals, and we're seeing new innovation coming forward. What's unlocking that innovation is ways in which we can deliver that technology to the crop or to the plant or to the field site. But what we're also finding out as we're researching and really embracing this as biologists and not as chemists, we have a lot of variables coming in. We've got the variation that climate change is causing. We've got changes in varietal responses, defense mechanisms. But there's some really lovely work now coming along, which is understanding about what happens in the soil environment. So I mean, this is probably obvious to other people, but I was sort of sitting at a meeting and somebody was talking about understanding the soil microbiome and the volatiles produced. And I know microorganisms produce volatiles, but what they were showing is that production of volatiles was changing and uplifting or down-regulating and up-regulating the plant mechanisms, and sort of so sudden realization that there's this volatile effect. We've always known that plants exude substances which can attract natural enemies, can increase the effect of the natural enemies. So, for example, you can put trichoderma, which is for managing plant diseases, on maize, and it then causes the maize to send out a signal to the natural enemy to come and kill it. So we know there's these complex interactions. What we're beginning to do is to understand these complex interactions and to be able to start to capture those. So what I can see in the future of plant production, well, starting to come in now, is increasing complexity, really knowledge intensive. And our challenge is, how do we capture that in a way that we can deliver solutions to the farmer, which are manageable and understandable? But what I think we can see coming forward is we're less selling litres of substances and more selling knowledge around how to use these technologies. And so if I think about what's happening in the future of plant production, it is all of these elements coming together, understanding what's happening to the plant in the field more. And by unlocking that, we can unlock how we can have higher quality food production, meet sustainable development goals, and start to be able to deliver the farmer some really good solutions. And if we reflect on that in terms of vector management, we're seeing the same things happening. We're seeing the same range of technologies beginning to come forward. We're seeing a range of assistive technologies in the digital sphere, which can support those technologies. But we're faced with a lot of other challenges, such as the changing in climate and how that's changing life cycles. We're seeing changes in host responses and defense mechanism. We're seeing habitat changes. We're seeing changes in human patterns of human behavior where humans are living. We're also seeing improvements in human health globally, which is changing how humans are able to respond to the disease, pest pressures. One of the things we're seeing is new emergent pests, and that's a challenge, is how we can quickly respond to those and how biocontrol can quickly respond to them. So to try and understand a little bit about just how much is changing, I had a look at publications in this area. So I picked up keywords that are associated with a movement towards integrated pest management, integrated vector management. And if you look at what's in the publications in blue, which was in the period 2014 to 18, and compare that to 2019 and 2024, and see the rapid increase in research and publications in this area, you can see that we've really moved away from the log phase of this development, and we've moved away from the lag phase and we're into the log phase. We see there's a really strong uptick in research in this area. The challenge we have is how to move that research into good products and to support farmers and humans to have better disease control and better health options. So what I see is the future of plant production or what I'm seeing in the evidence around me is plant production is going to be a complexity of pulling all of these technologies together, of pulling how we manage the knowledge, how we gather the knowledge, and who's going to deliver the knowledge to the farmer, and how well can they deliver the knowledge to the farmer. Then for vectors, what is being promoted is the One Health approach, where they want the health responses to be tied into improving environmental health, improving plant and animal health to feed humans well as improving human health, and the aim is to fit within this. So where I see what's happening in biorationals, what's going on in the world, is as we're at a really interesting point, and probably the most change I've seen in my entire career. So we had the system that was set up in the 1960s for high input systems, and those systems did really well. And to some extent, we've known about biocontrol. I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years. I learned from other people who are doing this. So we knew that there was biocontrol. But what we're seeing is biocontrol coming into practice. And so we're changing up our crop protection model. We're starting to change our vector management models as well. But to do this, we need a vast knowledge. It's not just about being an insect pathologist. It's not just being a plant pathologist. It's about needing soil ecologists, plant ecologists. You need to think of things on a landscape scale, especially if you're dealing with vector management. You need to have a really good understanding of genetics, much better understanding of plant physiology, and sort of not trying to do sort of single gene changes, but look at multiple gene changes, about thinking about the genetics we have across a field, across a crop, and trying to model and trying to capture this. And yes, we still need the chemistry, but to some extent, the chemistry we need to look after that. We need to be careful not to build up resistance. We need to be careful not to move forward. So I hope you've kind of found that interesting as a high-level overview of what I can see in the world happening with biorationals, and I'm really open to any questions that you have. And if there was any part you couldn't hear, I'm happy to go back to that.
Perfect. Thank you, Roma. I have the chat box open, so we'll look and see if anyone has any questions. We have about 5 minutes left in time. And also just a reminder, if someone missed a big section or they want to rewatch it, we will be posting the entire summit on the website. All right. I don't think we have any questions. Thank you so much, Roma. It was wonderful. Are you there, Roma?
Oh, yes, sorry, I'm here. Apologies.
Okay. Perfect. All right, thank you so much. We are going to move on to our next speaker, which is Dr. Norbert Becker. If I can get you to stop sharing the presentation.
So just, it's struggling to get it to stop.
Okay, if you click on share and then you have to click on the share and then click on stop sharing.
Yeah, it's not.
I can steal it from you, so it's fine. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Thank you, Roma. All right, our next speaker is Dr. Norbert Becker. He is a globally recognized expert in medical entomology and mosquito control with a career spanning over 4 decades. He has served as scientific director of the German Mosquito Control Association and the Institute for Dipterology and currently leads ICYBAC, Biological Mosquito Control GmbH. And he is a longstanding professor at the University of Heidelberg. He has contributed extensively to research, teaching, and the development of environmentally sustainable mosquito control methods. And he will be talking to us about the role of BTI in vector control. I will now bring Dr. Becker in.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for this.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Let me get your presentation posted for you. Okay, it'll take a second to load the slides. I am going to step out of the camera, but you just let me know when to advance them. I know you have a larger presentation, so it's going to take a second there.
Okay, some slides, yes. But anyway, thank you for giving me the chance to speak about BDI and my 4 decades of experience with BDI. I have 3 sections in my presentation. One is dealing with my experience BDI in Germany as a director of the German or former director of the German Mosquito Control Association. Secondly, I will speak about the experience BDI in Africa. We experienced the last decade. And third, I will speak about the tiger mosquito control in Germany and elsewhere. So let's start. The first, next slide, please. I mean, this was a situation in the middle of the 1970s. It was a natural disaster in our area, in the Upper Rhine Valley. Maybe you saw these slides already. We had a biting rate of more than 1,000 mosquitoes per minute, and there was a very strong demand for control of mosquitoes. Next slide, please. The loss of money is more than 20 million euros in our area. And we spent about 4 or 5 million euros for the control of mosquitoes. So we have a positive balance. Next slide. Those are the major breeding places of the floodwater mosquitoes. We have the river basins, we have the swampy woodlands, we have salt marshes along the Atlantic coast and Mediterranean coast. We have rice fields mainly in southern Europe, and we have lakes and ponds with Coquiletidia or Mansonia and Anopheles and some Culex species. Next slide, please. In the urban area, mainly now in the southwest part of Germany, we have the major problem with the tiger mosquito. Formerly, in the old days, we had the problem with Culex pipiens, anthropophilic biotype, Culex pipiens molestus, which breeds in sewage tanks and sewage cesspits. And we have also a problem in some areas, in agricultural areas, with Anopheles plumbeus, treehold species, treehold breeding species, but it switched in cesspools and has a mass development there, and mainly in this area, strong nuisance. Next slide. Those are the areas where we conduct mosquito control mainly along the coast with Aedes detritus and Aedes cuspius, and the blue areas are mainly Aedes vexans and Aedes ticticus, up to the Swedish area in the north, Dalavan, etc., or Balaton. Next slide. In the first abatement district was founded in EID Montpellier, 1958, and some other EID organizations in France, and Germany was then the second in 1976 because of this disaster I have shown some minutes before, and some other areas. This was especially based on BDI, because in many countries it was forbidden to use chemicals in natural protected areas and so on. But with BDI, we were able to solve these floodwater mosquito problems in those areas. So we have more than 2 million hectares of breeding place of these floodwater mosquitoes. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry, I made it last night, and so this is a typical breeding area of Aedes vexans and other parts of Aedes ticticus. Usually those areas are very very sensitive, and most of the areas are even protected. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, in the 70s and before the world wars, this was the way of controlling the mosquitoes, just pulse fogging, malarcyan, or even with DDT before the World War. And they started also in the 70s to combat the mosquitoes with these techniques, with daldicides. And this was the origin of my activity. I was at the university. I made my PhD in Heidelberg. And we convinced the mayors that this is not a suitable control approach. You can see the yellow glue table with the butterflies and beetles and everything. But the mosquitoes were back the next day. The next slide. So it was not appropriate. Our dream was, in our group at the University of Heidelberg at that time, this was 1975, next slide, to have the protection of nature as well as humans under one roof. Next slide. To use the power of the nature, this means protection of the predators of the mosquitoes like copepods, dragonflies, etc. Next slide. And the discovery of BDI was a breakthrough for us. I mean, without BDI, we would not be able to control the mosquitoes, especially the larvae, of course, in Germany in these protected areas. Next slide. We tackle one mesh in the ecological system. This mesh stands for the mosquitoes, and we would like to protect all other meshes in this web. And the less holes you have in the web, the more stable is the ecological system. This was our principle at the beginning. Next slide. So to have a selective control. But what we figured out, and what I figured out also in other areas of the world, in Africa, first and most important is that you have somebody, a politician, for instance, a governor in our case, who is supporting this integrated control with biorational methods. This was Dr. Scheler. He founded the German Mosquito Control Association 1976 when BDI was found. Next slide. So this was a coincidence. This was our luck and even my private luck that I was making my PhD with BDI, and this was the starting point of my career. In our area, we have about 3 million people. And as I said already, we have about 6 million euros for the control. Next slide. We use solely BDI in some parts, Bacillus products, and we conduct also environmental management, water management, to create ditches that fish can invade in the flooding area. Next slide, please. So first was the political will to do something, that our governor convinced the mayors that they should follow the Heidelberg group to implement BDI or biorational integrated control in the Upper Rhine Valley. But the second very important point was the infrastructure. We had to build a suitable, a functional infrastructure, and this we miss in most parts of the world, to have infrastructure for larval control. And this we implemented in the Upper Rhine Valley. It's functioning since 4 decades now. Next slide, please. Pseudo formulations, for instance, BDI at the beginning in the late 70s, we produced the sand granule oil and BDI powder and mixed it and applied it by helicopter. Then we had the corn cob granule, and finally we have also ice granules, as you might know. We have new tools like drones, but mainly the areas are treated with helicopters. About 2/3 of our area are treated by 2 to 3 helicopters, and 1/3 by ground application. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot from the treatment. You see the drugs are coming with the granules, in this case ice granules. The helicopters are loaded and they treat along the Rhine River, about 350 kilometers along the Rhine, the breeding places. So per season, usually 20,000 hectares, which amounts to about 60,000 acres, 70,000 acres. Next slide, please. Everything is recorded, of course, that everything is appropriately treated with GPS and GIS. Please, next slide. In the last years, we have used more than 500 tons of BDI, and we have treated about 1 million acres the last years, as it's mentioned here. Next slide, please. The result is tremendous. The last decades, we have no major nuisance of mosquitoes. Of course, we have some mosquitoes left, of course, but this we can prove by employing these EVS traps. Next slide, please. As scientists at the university, I have many PhDs and master students just evaluating the impact of our treatments to the ecosystem, on the food web, etc., on bats, on tadpoles and swallows. So far, we could not measure a negative impact. There might be an impact, but it's so minimum that it's not measurable. Next slide, please. Next slide is, sorry, it was last night. And another amazing effect of our, let's say, 5,000 tons of BDI applications over 40 years is, so far we have absolutely no phenomenon of resistance. We have a 3-year or 4-year term of checking our populations for resistance, and so far nothing. By the way, this is done by our colleague from the State Zoo. He studied also in Riverside. Next slide. Okay, thank you, BDI. I mean, my career and our success is based on BDI here. Next slide. Now going to Africa. I mean, I'm also a member of the rollback malaria partnership group, and recently we had, or last year we had a meeting in Kigali, and I shared my thoughts together with Manuel Liberas, Peter Deschamps, and my colleagues from Heidelberg concerning larval source management in Africa. Next slide, please. As you know, I mean, bednet, indoor residual spraying, and drugs, those are the main pillar of the rollback malaria control activities, and we are fighting for larval source management. Luckily, the WHO has prepared a manual on larval source management. My former student, Ulrike Villinger, is very much involved in this preparation of this manual. Next slide. Yeah, okay. But I was surprised when I was reading the World Malaria Report 2023, there was no or few words on larval source management. And this brought me to the idea to fight a little bit more for the integrated control strategy, including larval source management. And we have no golden bullet, but we need all bullets we have in our gun to fight these terrible vectors. Next slide, please. What is the result of the RBM program? When we started in the year 2000, we had 243 million new cases of malaria. In 2023, we had 247 million cases, so an increase of the cases. Luckily, the death rate is decreasing by more than 30%. This is a good effect, but still there is a need to improve our system, also financially. Next slide, please. What are the reasons and the challenges of the RBM malaria program? First of all, of course, the pyrethroid resistance of the vectors, changing vector populations. I mean, swift of Endophagus anophilus gambiae to exophagy of Anophilus arabiensis and funestus. We have a protection gap when only IDNs and IRS are applied from, let's say, from 6 to 10 in the evening and the morning. And of course, occurrence of a new competent vector, Anophilus stephensii. This will be also a major challenge in the rollback malaria program, which we have to deal with. Next slide, please. We have to increase, in my point of view, the toolbox, and it should include integrated larval source management. And I would like to show in the next few slides some successful examples. Next slide, please. This was, of course, William Gorgas. When the Panama Canal was created, larval source management was his major tool to fight the vector of malaria and yellow fever. And he is now a hero. He became a national hero because of success. Next slide, please. Then we have another colleague. This was Frederick Sober, who eradicated Anophilus gambiae from northeast Brazil from 39 to 1940 by larval source management, at that time with Paris Green. He had no BDI available, of course. Next slide, please. This is Kligler, another example. He was successful to eradicate malaria based on larval source management, making potential breeding sites non-productive for mosquitoes by mapping drainage of breeding places with community participation. Next slide. Then we moved to Burkina Faso with a special program between the health center in Nuna and the University of Heidelberg, my colleagues Rainer Sauerborn and Peter Dambach. We call it EMIRA, Ecological Malaria Reduction in Africa by Larval Source Management. This was done in the district, or Coss district, with about 230,000 inhabitants. Next slide, please. And we transferred our knowledge from the Upper Rhine Valley to this district. We selected 126 communities there, and we clustered them in untreated or in communities where only the WHO principle was realized. And then we had 42 villages where we treated all breeding places, and another 42 villages where we treated only the breeding place which we identified with a satellite. Next slide. Yeah, of course, mapping of the breeding places was very important at the beginning, and we checked the sequence of treatments when we use Vectorbug WG. Next slide, please. The treatment had to be done each second to third week. So we used 300 grams per hectare at each 10 days. And we trained 160 people in this 84 villages where we had the treatments. Next slide, please. This was a sensitization of the villages was important. We were going from village to village and explained what we are doing with the authorities. Next slide, please. Then we trained this 160 people in the field how to use BDI. Next slide, please. And as you can see, the treatment in the Upper Rhine Valley in Nuna and Burkina Faso in the Coss district was the same as in Germany. Next slide. The result was convincing. We had a reduction of the adults by more than 70%. This was very much appreciated by the people there. Unfortunately, we were not able to find a strong impact on the disease because of various reasons, and we had also to stop the program some time ago because of the political disturbances in this area. Next slide, please. Now let's move. The cost. I mean, it's very cost effective. The costs per person per year are almost the same in Burkina or less as in Germany. It's about €1 per person per year. Next slide, please. In our point of view, larval source management should be considered in more places, in more situations, at the fourth column in the fight against malaria. Next slide, please. Now let's move to the tiger mosquito, which is a serious problem. This evening I have again a meeting with the mayors in Heidelberg and the authorities. The fight of this beast is very expensive for the communities. Heidelberg, a city of about 200,000 people, spent €800,000 last year for the fight. So I will explain a little bit about this. Next slide, please. Here you see the development of the species in Germany. I mean, we had the introduction of the species 1990 with used tires to Italy, and it spread very quickly in Italy and along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. And it was first detected in Germany 2007 along the highway coming from Italy, most probably introduced as blind passenger by a car. We employed these ovitraps along the highway. And the first mass development was 2014 in Freiburg. It's in the southern part of Germany, of Baden-Württemberg. And this was a special location. Each day arrived six trains with 24 trucks on a location there, on a train station in Freiburg. And close was a allotment garden. And each day they introduced the tiger mosquito. And this was the first mass development. But we had a really explosion-like dispersal the last years. 2017, we had 7 communities. 2020, 25 cities were infested. Last year, 60 cities, and we estimate that we have this year more than 100 cities infested. So it's really a disaster with the tiger mosquito. Next slide. I have still 6 minutes. We control the tiger mosquito because of the unbearable nuisance in these cities where they have no control. And of course, we would like to reduce the risk for local transmission of dengue. We have each year about 1,000 cases imported, travel-related cases imported from the tropics mainly, Asia and Mexico, South America. And next slide. We have these 3 columns. Control. The first and important column is the community participation, of course. Get rid of breeding places, sanitation of breeding places. Second column is door-to-door applications and sensitization of the people, information on the door of the people, what they can do, and the active control with BDI. And recently, we are using copper pods as a sustainable, cost-effective control tool. Next slide, please. Yeah, help for self-help. This was our hope that it's functioning. We provide really thorough information by flyers, by media, by websites, press releases, etc. We use PDI tablets. We spread them in the communities free of charge. And we train the people to record strange mosquitoes or to report strange mosquitoes. This we call passive monitoring. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, we have the ignorance of people. 5 to 10% of the people don't cooperate with us. And this is a really big problem. Next slide. Therefore, we go, as I mentioned, from door to door and apply PDI in a high dosage to have a long-term effect of 3 to 4 weeks. But at least we need 5 to 7 rounds per season. And this amounts, I mean, each round per property takes 17 minutes. And when we summarize all rounds and the costs, we have per property about 60 euros. And next slide, please. Therefore, we are looking for sustainable effects by the control, and we use PDI and copper pods. We combine, and this is a pure biological control now. Next slide. I share some experience. I worked for the WHO TDI in the late 1980s, and we supported Asian countries with the idea to use copper pods against Aedes aegypti. And my idea was why we should not use it in Germany. So next slide. So first we were checking our native copper pods. I mean, copper pods are crustaceans, of course, and we have about 13,000 species, marine and freshwater. Cyclops is a freshwater species, very abundant here. Next slide, please. So first of all, we can only use indigenous species, not to have a negative impact on the local ecosystem. We need species which are omnivorous. If there is no mosquito in the rainwater barrel, for instance, they have to feed upon other organisms. They have to be robust to survive in different habitats, and they have to be easily to be handled for mass rearing. Next slide. Yeah, here a student, Isabel Pauli, was collecting copper pods around Heidelberg and determined the copper pods. Next slide, please. And we came up with this species, Megacyclops viridis. It's really a killer of the tiger mosquito. It kills the tiger mosquitoes, the first insects, but don't feed upon all of the killed mosquitoes. It just kills the mosquitoes. Next slide. This, hopefully it works. Can you move it a bit? You see the first instar, maybe it doesn't work. Just press it, bit, it should, no, go back. Doesn't work. Sorry, you see the first,
No.
it doesn't work. It's really a pity. I mean, it's convincing, this action of the copper pod on the right hand in the lower part of the slide, and it moves towards the first instar and kills the first instar. Next slide. Yeah, then we checked PDI high dosages of the suspension and copper pods. They died in tap water, but they survived and proliferate in the BDI suspension. So they feed upon the BDI, and after 5 weeks, we have 2 times more copper pods in the BDI treated vessels as in the tap water vessels. Next slide, please. So BDI serves as food. The question was the predation rate and which larval stage. Next slide, please. They feed upon, we had these small vessels. We released 1 copper pod and 5 mosquito larvae, different instars and different species, Albopictus and Culex pipiens. Next slide. They feed upon the first instars mainly. This is due to the small size of the copper pod, of course, but they killed 80% in 24 hours. Next slide, please. They preliminarily or preferable, they killed Aedes albopictus and not Culex larvae because of the feeding behavior. Albopictus is a brusher and Culex is a filter feeder on the uppermost surface, water surface. So they are killing more the tiger mosquitoes. Next slide. And predation rate. Next slide. We have done during the last season. We infested this water containers with 60 liters with different amounts of copper pods and released on a weekly base 300 copper first instars on a weekly base and 600 instars on a weekly base in a ratio 1:5 and 1:2. Next slide, please. And as you can see, for 2 months in the infested barrels with a ratio of 1:2 and 1:5 with the release of 600 first instar larvae, almost no tiger mosquito could be found. Next slide, please. And surprisingly, we checked after 8 weeks the amount of copper pods in the vessels, and we could see that we have 26-fold more copper pods as we released in the vessels. Next slide, please. So they proliferate in the vessels. Routine was then we release them in 20 water barrels in one village and checked the development of the tiger mosquito. Next slide. So no tiger mosquito in the copper pod treated vessels. Next slide. Yeah, crucial is of course the mass rearing process, and this we succeeded to release each second week about 1 million copper pods in our mass rearing facility. Next slide, please. So we figured out what is the best food for the copper pods. It's paramecium, as most of you might know. We rear the paramecium with wheat for 2 weeks at 24 degrees. Next slide, please. We used also special water, osmosis water, with a special apparatus that we have a standardized rearing water. And we use these aquariums with 100 liters. We release 5,000 copper pods. We rear them for 2 weeks and we filter the water and release then the larvae and the copper podid, the larval stage of the copper pods, in these rearing vessels on the right, and rear them for another 2 weeks. Next slide. And feed them with a high amount. I don't think that it works now, or? No. Doesn't work, unfortunately. So you can see this is a harvest of 2 to 3 weeks of copper pods. Next slide. So we have a special tailor-made apparatus to fill in the copper pods in small plastic bags with 250 copper pods per bag, as you can see on the right side, the lower part. Each bag has about 200 to 250 copper pods. Next slide. We started on Monday to release the copper pods. We can stable the copper pods in a fridged room, 6 degrees, for weeks. And when we need them, we release them in the field. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is a way first we treat with BDI, that we kill all old instars, late instars, and then we release the copper pods. And this is our principle now, our strategy against the tiger mosquito in about, hopefully in 60 cities now. Now we practice it in Heidelberg, but most probably also in neighboring cities. So this is our hope. BDI and the copper pods are the ideal tool to control the tiger mosquito. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you, BDI. Thank you, copper pods. This is our solution. Next slide, please. So thank you to my group, former group. Thank you to our Ministry of, Federal Ministry of Food and Agriculture. We get the money for this research, and also my colleagues from the Leibniz Institute, Bernhard Nocht Institute. We are cooperating to find solutions for this terrible, unbearable nuisance of the tiger mosquitoes in the infested areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Becker. I appreciate the presentation. It's very informative. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Becker? If you do, please put them in the chat. We have 1 or 2 minutes.
Yeah, Beth, can I add something? I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I just had a very serious conversation this morning with our federal Ministry for Environment and some other agencies. So far, it's not allowed to release BDI to private people without a consulting the people. I mean, the regulations become more and more ridiculous, and maybe I need also the experience of Dr. Gwynn, Roma, to solve this problem. Year by year, we have ridiculous regulations for BDI. When I was working at the WHO, you know, BDI was the only tool which we could use in the frame of community participation because it's safe. And now these regulations spoil the whole program. Yeah, I cannot go to each person who is buying, for instance, BDI for the control of the container breeding mosquitoes. Yeah, I mean, this is a serious problem, and I hope we can solve this problem in the near future. So far, in each village or in each city where we hand over the tablets to private people, we have to consult the people how to use BDI. It's safe. We give them flyers and information. This should be enough, and stop these ridiculous regulations for the usage of BDI.
Thank you. I believe many of us are in agreement with that. So
Yeah.
I appreciate your sentiments. And again, thank you so much. I know you're very busy today. I know you have an appointment you're running off to. So I'll ask one more time if anyone has any questions. You got one statement, wonderful, great work. But I don't see that there are any questions right now. But if I get any after, because I know you have to run, I'll be sure to reach out and connect you to who that is. So
Thank you.
thank you very much.
You.
Great. Our next speaker is Sébastien Gwynn. Chouin, I hope I said that correctly. I know I've been working on that. He is a senior entomologist and vector control expert, and he has over 20 years of experience, played key roles in mosquito surveillance and control across Western France, including the first European detection of Aedes, I never can say this, japonicus, and he previously served as scientific and technical director at EID Atlantique and has contributed to many national and international public health missions. He's widely recognized for integrating innovative tools into vector control programs, including digital mapping, drones, and the citizen science app Mystique. So without further ado, we welcome Sébastien Chouin, and he will be speaking about vector control in the EU. Let me bring you on. Hello.
Hello, Elizabeth.
For joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Do you want me? I didn't know if you wanted me to control your presentation, but I think you know how to share it.
I will share. I will share to you.
Perfect. Perfect. I hand the stage over to you then.
Screen up. Oh, with the share button on the screen. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah. So, good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be with you today. First of all, I want to thanks VBC, Valent Bioscience, for the opportunity to present our mosquito control activities, and especially you, Beth, and Santosh and Silas for Europe. I will talk to you our experience over more than 40 years of using of BTI in our mosquito control program. I will show. Yeah, it's okay. First, I will present the mosquito control context in western part of France. And in the second part, we will going on the more detail of the mosquito program management. And third, we will I will explain to in more details the assessment of the effect of Vectovac WG we've done by the past and the results. So let's go on. The mosquito control context in western part of France. In some part, my talk will be redundant with that Dr. Becker said before, but I will show you in more detail. The western part of France, and especially the county of Charente-Maritime, is a unique shape of marshes created and exploited by humans for centuries, mainly for salt production and oysters farming also. So this shape of wetlands make so 100,000 hectares of wetlands make a large range of breeding sites for mosquitoes species. In our place, we have got 33 mosquito species, but only 12 of these species are mainly controlled. 75% of the activity is mainly induced by Aedes caspus, Aedes detritus, and maybe also Aedes coluzi, the salt marshes mosquitoes. The hatching dynamic is especially in the Atlantic way. I guess we share this point with colleagues of Florida because of the tides of the ocean creating hatching every month, and in some part we have a breeding side dynamic 15 times per year. So with the rains and the local human water management, we have a lot of work, of course. By the past, the health problem was the malaria was widespreading until the 19th century in our place, but the last cases were described in the 50s, just after the Second World War. Now we have still Anopheles species, of course, but we don't have any more human malaria cases in our place. And sometimes we have birds, malaria cases on birds. It's not the same plasmodium. Unfortunately, in 2023, we observed the first cases of Yuzu2 and West Nile fever in our place, with birds cases, also horses cases, and human also. So it was the first time, and we both identified both viruses in queue excipients. So it's quite new for our place in western part of France. Of course, we have also, like Dr. Becker said before, the widespread of the tiger mosquito, Aedes albopictus. First time observed in tire sites, in imported tire sites in 1999, but since this time you can see on the map the spread everywhere in mainland France. mainly due to the transports and the exponential trend of its colonization is correlated with the appearance of locally acquired cases of vector-borne disease, mainly dengue and chikungunya. Especially in our place, the trend is the same. You can see the number of municipalities affected by tiger mosquito and on the map, but hopefully, actually, we don't have any vector-borne disease yet. But the nuisance rising in this place, the same as in Germany. So I will now get to try to give you an overview of the mosquito control program. Of course, mosquito control in our place is due to a social claim and economic support. Charente-Maritime is in the top 3 of the main touristical destination in mainland France. Many people, nearly 2 billion euros in turnover per year. So it's very important, and also for the people who are living in our place, it's very important. So in 1969, politicians decided to implement an integrated mosquito control management. Due to through a public agency, Atlantic by the past. Now we are smaller, but it's quite the same. And currently the cost is much more 1 million euros per year, which not very expensive. So due to the special national policy in France, we have a national law, especially for mosquitoes, for fighting mosquitoes. This law allow our guy to treat everywhere in public and private properties, because the major part of wetland are private properties, so we need to access, and this is a good tool because now we have also Aedes albopictus, tiger mosquito, so we need to go to the domestic area. So actually, we are managing 97 municipalities with 20 guys. This is represent 8,000 mosquito breeding sites mapped, 4,000 hectares of wetlands, and the major part, more than 90%, are protected areas. Ramsar, Natura 2000 is specific for Europe. The particular shape of our wetlands allow to a special larval source management, because of the traditional wetland shaping, of course. And the goal of this water management is to control water levels, to prevent the proliferation of Aedes, Caspius, and Detritus. This water management program began in 1977, and actually more than 1,500 hectares of wetlands have been restored. So this is a good way for the management of the marshes to avoid mosquitoes. Of course, in our toolbox we have the by the same of all operators. We are doing a demonstration, public meetings, trainings, educational intervention in school. We have also a website page, flyers, reporting apps. By the past, I presented the mosquito e-moustique application in the AMCA meeting in 2014. And actually, we are trying to implement smiley boxes with the methods of Internet of Things to try to register the feeling of people about mosquitoes biting. Yeah, the use of biocide, and mainly actually we will see after the history of using biocide in our part. An integrated mosquito management program is based at first, and Dr. Becker said, the best product we can have for cost, efficacy, and environmentally friendly. But in Europe, we have a special biocide regulation, and actually BTI is the only larvicide we can use. Hopefully, BTI is the best actually. So it's a very good thing. So when we have the best product, you must apply it at a good place, the breeding site, or mapping the target species and larval density are the main factor for the treatment decision. The perfect time, because the youngest larval stage possible because of the sensitivity of the larvae, and the temperature, because BTI is of course actually we are treated when the water temperature is up to higher than 5 degrees. Under 5 degrees, the efficacy is not optimal. And at the not the end, but the right dosage, calibration, spraying, training. Actually, we are using by ground, by drones, 300 grams per hectare of Vectobac WG mainly. And of course, at each stage, we must do control and at last evaluation of the program. So just have a look on the overview of the treatment since 1969. You can see in the first part the use of synthetic larvicide. At this time, at the end of the 70s, organophosphorate was the only larvicide available in our place. Where we were using Temefos Abat until 2008. But in the early 80s, the first studies opened the way for using BTI as an environmentally friendly larvicide. In 1981, Professor Moulinier published the results of the inequity of BTI for oysters larvae, because in our place, this is a big place for and famous place for oysters. So farmers are very attentive for the treatment, mosquito treatment. So at the beginning of the 80s, we started to use BTI. At the beginning, it was very few. like you can see. But the turning point is 2007 because of the ban of OP in Europe, and since this date we are using only BGI. We will see in the third part the assessment of potential effect of vector-backed WG, a study, a long scale, long-term, large scale and long-term study over much more 14 years. Just an example of the treatment of biocide mitigation. Just in one place before the treatment, the integrated mosquito management. You can see more than 10,000 kilograms of lindan and HCH was sprayed by plane on municipalities. At this time, it was 1964, in only 3 months. Actually, we are using less than 50 kilograms of vector-backed WG. So this is not the same philosophy of mosquito control, hopefully. Of course, in the toolbox, we have also now, because of the mosquito-borne disease and the tiger mosquitoes and USO2 and West-Nile viruses, the turn back of the vector control. The toolbox is still the same. We have citizen mobilization with door-to-door action, media communication, larval source reduction, trapping. Actually, we are experiment mass trapping in some places. We will see for the future. Surface film, this is non-biocide like aquatane. In some ways, it's interesting. But using of Vectomax fine granules for water tanks and catch basins is very, very interesting, because the efficacy is up to 6 to 8 weeks. So Vectomax is very interesting in some parts. And only around vector-borne disease cases we are allowed to spray peritinoids only at night, because of the bees and to take care of the bees. And for the future, maybe CIT or SBT, we don't know, and maybe why not copepods also. But I will don't develop this part of vector control. Dr. Becker done better than me. Just the last part of my talk, to remember the study of Dr. Lagadic with the assessment of potential effects of vector-backed WG on non-target aquatic vertebrates. From 1998 to 2012, this large-scale environmental monitoring demonstrated that the long-term use of BTI had no influence on the temporal evolution of the taxa and the taxonomic structure of non-target aquatic communities. Many publications. You have this one. You have another, and we will just have a short look about these studies. The aim was to compare control and treated areas with a large scale of treatment pressure. So we have this map. The results on the taxonomic richness show that there is no particular trend and no significant trend between control and treated. We will saw after that the population, the non-target population, are mainly the evolution of this community is influenced by the environmental aspect, like drought. Yeah. Mainly for chironomids or other. For the principal response curve, what do we learn? Variation of this task abundance are independent from application of Vectobac. The result reflect environmental fluctuation like drought. But chironomids are particular because of Diptera group is close to mosquito. The chironomids are forage food for birds, and in the food web we must be careful to impact this group. So many questions about chironomids and the effect of the BTI. In lab, we can observe that chironomids are 400-fold less sensitive to BTI than mosquito larvae, and in the field, many studies show that BTI dosage applied for mosquito control are 15 to 90 fold lower than the sensitivity threshold for chironomids. So despite the nature of BTI, the mosquito control management is also a guarantee to avoid impact on this group. Near to the end, we can see that the abundance of chironomids larvae do not decrease following the repeated application of Vectobac over several years. So, is this surprising? In the close at the end of the 90s, Pierre Hortot, a French ecologist, said that if mosquito larvae could be selectively destroyed, their vacant ecological niche would be occupied by chironomids larvae, and the food biomass available to predator would very little. So this is a way that we can be careful or safe with against chironomids. So for the last slide, nothing to worry about. Actually, we are convinced that BTI remains the most durable larvicide for mosquito control. There is no real alternative, but just keep in mind the human health goals of mosquito control, and like Dr. Becker said, thanks to BTI, actually. So it's okay for me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Sébastien. That was a wonderful presentation. We are open. We have 1 or 2 minutes if anyone has any questions. Based on past, I think we'll probably be pretty good. And again, just as I said with Norbert, if someone has a question, I'll definitely reach out or see if I could connect you with them, if that's okay, Sébastien. But thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And have a great day. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Oops. Our next guest is Mikki Coss. Mikki began her career with Florida Keys Mosquito Control District back in 2003 as a domestic inspector. And since then, she has worked her way up to operations director in 2017. She works very closely with state and federal agencies to update, report, and manage the Keys pesticide use and management plans. And under her tutelage, FKMCD has incorporated BTI into all of their management plans as a sustainable product. So she will be speaking to us about using BTI on protected lands in the Florida Keys. So with that, I welcome Mikki. Hi, Mikki.
Hello, how are you today?
Good. Can I have you possibly move a little bit closer to the computer so we can hear you a little bit better?
I'm not familiar with this camera. Is that close enough?
Yes. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I know you're in a guest office right now. So perfect. Do you need me to share the presentation for you, or are you able to do it?
If you could share it, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Give it a second, and then while we're waiting to upload, I'm going to pop off the screen and turn everything over to you. So thank you, Mikki. You ready?
Yes.
Your slides are up, so whenever you're ready, we're ready for you.
Okay, now I see you. Today I'm going to talk about collaborating with our state and federal stakeholders. It's definitely been a long journey. Will I be exchanging the slides, or will you?
I'll be changing them.
Okay, next slide, please. Florida Keys mosquito control, we have about 120 miles of road. You see how skinny the islands are. But we have almost 1,800 square miles of property within the Florida Keys. Only 1,700 are owned or managed by federal, state, and environmental organizers. 5% of those areas are areas that Florida Keys Mosquito Control District can manage and treat as needed with the entire IMM products. Next slide, please. In the Florida Keys, we have approximately 850 islands throughout the entire Keys. 51 of them are connected by bridges on US 1, and there are about 70 uninhabited islands that are not connected with bridges. Next. Florida Keys Mosquito Control, we have a bridge of a board of 5 commissioners. We're very lucky to have a broad range. They all have multiple careers that do help our organization. We have a physician, we have an accountant, a banker, and our chairman is a retired chemist, and we have an IT specialist. So with this broad range of board, they really have a great understanding and education of what we need to do as a district. Next slide, please. Florida Keys Mosquito Control, we have about a $15 million operating budget. We have 72 full-time employees. We do have a part-time staff, usually seasonal, for ULV fogging, and we do have part-time pilots on call. We have 37 inspectors on the ground. You've seen how far the Florida Keys are, the 120-mile stretch. We have 3 offices, one in Key Largo, one in Marathon, and one in the Lower Keys. The Lower Keys, in the presentation, you'll see the large areas in the Lower Keys, but we have 6 inspectors in the Lower Keys, 6 in the Middle Keys, 14 inspectors in the Lower Keys, and 11 that are concentrated just in the island of Key West. Currently, we have 5 helicopters, 3 H-125s and 2 Long Ranger Bell 206s. Recently, we just phased out our fixed wing aircraft, which is, and we're turning all helicopter fleet. Next slide, please. Florida Keys Mosquito Control District, I feel that it's a little different than many areas. We have a lot of protected land. Key West itself is the urbanized area. There's over 25,000 people just in that small 2 by 4 mile island. And then we have the Lower Keys, which is a lot of those offshore islands that produce mosquitoes that come onto the land. And then, of course, we have the rest of the Keys, over 100 miles of islands that are sparse neighborhoods with homes in between, and then the mangrove swamp areas with hardwood hammocks and percolation holes. So we have a whole gambit of different areas and communities to treat. Next slide, please. Now, many years ago, Florida was considered uninhabitable, and that included the Keys. Next. Because the Florida Keys and Florida were considered uninhabitable, we found a need that we needed to have partnerships, especially with U.S. Florida Fish and Wildlife and Florida Fish and Wildlife. We also partner with our state parks. We have the Navy, GIADF, Army Special Forces. So we have a lot of partners. Back in the day, we had multiple thuringiensis invasions, mostly coming from the offshore islands that are so close to the areas. We were getting human landing rate counts of over 3,500 mosquitoes per minute. There were 100 to 200 mosquitoes per minute in the residential areas, and we had nightly trap counts that were over 75,000 mosquitoes per trap. Due to the migration, especially on Big Pine and No Name Key, which are managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, we need to access those offshore islands and reduce the impacts for U.S. Fish and Wildlife, but also to protect and be able to live in the Lower Keys. Next slide, please. The Great White Heron Fish National Wildlife Refuge was established in 1938. There's over 200,000 acres and only 7,600 acres of land. We had every habitat in that area, from mangrove swamp, pinewood rockland, hardwood hammock, and of course salt marsh. Next slide, please. Here we have a picture of the Great White Heron National Wildlife Refuge and the National Key Deer Refuge. You can see all the areas in red. Those are areas managed from both of those agencies, and everything in red has a management plan of what we can and cannot do in those areas. And so you can see within neighborhoods in the very small amounts of area that we can do something. Next slide, please. We also are working with the National Key Deer Refuge, which was established in 1957. They have over 9,000 acres. They have habitats of the pine rockland, hardwood hammock, freshwater, wetlands, salt marsh, mangrove swamps. We have many areas with percolation when the tides are coming up. Even if there isn't water attached. It is percolating up through the ground. Next slide, please. In the National Key Deer Refuge, there are 17 listed species right now, but they are periodically adding more. Within the last 7 years, we've been having a few of the butterfly species that are being added more continuously on these. The key deer are protected, so are the lower key marsh rabbit, the white rice, but they're not really concerned as much with mosquito control with some of those species. But now that the Miami blue butterfly and the Bertram leaf-wing butterfly, the swallowtail butterfly, these are more interesting for U.S. Fish and Wildlife that we needed to work much more closely with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to compromise on these. Next slide, please. In the early 2000s, the production of mosquitoes was coming to the inshore islands. You could see US 1 on the bottom of the screen. Everything attached to US 1 has houses, neighborhoods in those areas, and you can see all the offshore islands on the tip of those islands where the mosquito production was coming from those islands to that. We have a great relationship with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and at that time in the early 2000s, we were lucky enough to have a progressive refuge manager that was willing to negotiate and talk to us and let us do some experiments. Next slide, please. So 2001, we started marking mosquitoes, all those offshore islands that you've seen, all those and more. We were dusting mosquitoes as they were coming off as adult larvae, and we are also trapping and dusting mosquitoes. Every island we dusted with different colors, and then we would release the mosquitoes on the offshore islands and then trap them on the main islands. On Big Pine and No Name is where we started. We did this for 8 weeks. We did 167 collections. 412,000 marked mosquitoes were collected on the inshore islands. Next slide, please. Here, just a representative of the study islands. You could see in the yellow, that's where we were trapping the mosquitoes inshore. You could see Annette Key, Mayo Key, Water Keys, Little Pine Key. And as I said, each of those mosquito batches were dusted with different colors. So what we were trying to mark is where they were coming from, and were they definitely coming to the mainland. And we worked very closely. It was a 3-year project dusting these mosquitoes. Next slide, please. So after coming up with all those results and showing that they were definitely coming from the offshore islands, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, of course, wants to protect the pristine islands and areas of the Florida Keys. 95% of the Florida Keys are protected areas. So we wanted to negotiate the risk managements, and we needed to compromise. They, of course, never want any control, and we need to protect the public. We established special use permits for the trapping and entering on the offshore islands. We can't, we have one path on each island that we can't disturb too much of the habitat on that island. We worked for years establishing reasonable, obtainable goals for both us and them, and then a long time establishing reporting of what we've done every year, and of course that's a living, breathing document, and they're always needing more or less on that, and we do that on a yearly basis still to this date. Next slide, please. This is just an example for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. This is a neighborhood in Big Pine Key. You can see all the areas in yellow. These are protected lands for U.S. Fish and Wildlife. In the middle of that, that's a neighborhood. They've obtained lands in between all the houses. So here comes part of our give and take. We gave them all the big areas around them so we could, with a threshold, we are allowed to ULV with a truck in that neighborhood without turning the ULV machine on and off. So those are the kind of give and takes that we worked out on our management plan. Next slide, please. On the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Agreement, we established several, at the beginning we had several no spray zones, and at the beginning we were allowed to spray 9 ULV missions aerially per year, and they had to be 5 days apart. The winds had to be equal or less to 15 miles an hour, and then actually each part of the island had a different landing rate count action threshold. ULV application by truck also varied by section with the landing rate counts associated with it. We do have to renew this management plan every year and create an annual report. Actually, I just finished that report last year, and this year it was 190 pages. It literally took me 2 months to finish that one. So next slide, please. So we also work very closely with Florida Fish and Wildlife. Right here I have an example of one of the 23 maps that is regulated by Florida Fish and Wildlife. Both Florida Fish and Wildlife and U.S. Fish and Wildlife have lands, and Florida will manage some of U.S. Fish and Wildlife property, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife will manage some of Florida's, just so we can work together to make it one report for each organization. This is one of my biggest islands. You can see in the where we can put a truck, what the landing rate count is to have a truck. You can see many areas there in green that we are only allowed to larvicide. And then the yellow areas, you can see that we need an average landing rate in that whole island of an average of 20 mosquitoes per minute to be able to have an aerial adulticide mission. And I'm sure, as you all know, an average of 20 mosquitoes per minute in that area, we're getting a lot of phone calls at that point. So the next slide. The first slide was, the one, yep. The slide before this was the ocean side of Sugarloaf. This one is the north side, which is the Gulf side of Sugarloaf. You could see all of the little areas in between that are managed by Florida Fish and Wildlife. And so this is a lot where the negotiations came in. So if we can do more larviciding and do less adulticiding, and it has a restriction, whereas it was 20 mosquitoes per minute on the ocean side of Sugarloaf. On this side of Sugarloaf, for an aerial mission, I needed an average of 10 mosquitoes per minute, and that's throughout that entire area, to be able to create a aerial adulticide mission. Next page, please. In Florida Fish and Wildlife, we just renewed this year's agreement. They've added 15 new areas. They keep gaining more lands, mostly offshore lands. We have 23 islands that are regulated. Every single island has a different threshold of where we can truck adulticide or aerial adulticide. For both U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Florida Fish and Wildlife, we can use BTI or BS on any of their properties, no matter how restricted it is, even with the butterflies or any portion of it, even the offshore islands. Those are the only two products within our management agreement that we are allowed to use. On both U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Florida Fish and Wildlife, it is restricted how many aerial adulticide missions and ULV truck adulticide missions we can have per year. Some of the ULV and aerial areas are restricted from any adulticide missions. For Florida Fish and Wildlife, it was a year of negotiation, especially for this new batch, because there was so many properties added of how we can give and take. It's very hard to have a restriction that you can never ever adulticide. So we would put thresholds up and try to work with them that way. And with Florida Fish and Wildlife, we do monthly reports. Sometimes that's a lot easier to get it off your plate quicker. And we do renew this annually, and sometimes in the middle of time they may accrue more islands or more areas that we might have to add on to that management agreement. Next slide, please. This is just a snapshot of the Florida Keys. You can see all the areas in red. We are not allowed to aerial adulticide in those areas at all. So this is where we are allowed to put BTI in every single one of those areas. So it's very important to be there and be on time and have it treated when needed. Next slide, please. Our granular larviciding operation, most of the areas we do in unimproved areas. We have the helicopter fleet that we're treating the offshore islands, all in unimproved areas. We also use the wall system because aerial adulticide missions also come when we have Aedes aegypti problems. In 2009 and 2010, we had dengue in the Key West area. In 2020, we had dengue locally introduced in the Key Largo area. So then we ramped up all of our missions and we started with the wall systems, walls aerially, and to reduce the adulticide missions, because a lot of those areas have those little portions that we cannot adulticide, and you can't cut out a 5-acre plot from an aerial mission. Next slide, please. So in 2008, this is as far as my records that I've been keeping track, you can see how many acres we were treating aerially. In 2006, we treated 37,542 acres adulticiding. I think we're all in the same position that adulticiding is is an important part of your IPM, but we have a lot of people that would like to see that to the very bare minimum, and that's what we've been working on. In 2024, we larvicided almost doubled of what we started in 2006, and we larvicided granularly 61,000 acres. So you can see in the top graph is the aerial adulticide missions that started in 2006. They were high, and then they go down every year. In QS last year, we only adulticided QS 2 times in the entire year. And in trucks, ULV trucks, you could see the large decrease from 2004 all the way to 2024, and all of this is due to the aerial larviciding program, both granular and the walls productions. If we weren't able to larvicide as much as we do, the lines would be still as high, and we wouldn't be protecting the environment as we should, especially in our area. It's very protected. In 2016, we started the walls applications through aerial missions, and in our average from 2016 to 2024, we're averaging over 22,000 acres a year in just those years. And in 2 or 3 years ago, we started with the walls application via truck mounted systems, and as you see, our ULV truck missions are continuing to reduce because of the Aedes aegypti population as well. Next slide, please. So this is areas treated annually, but with BTI every year. You see in 2026, we started low, and every year it goes higher and higher. And this is actually, this graph is just for the granular BTI. I've been increasing our walls application as well, but it surely, with the residents in the county, they're very happy to see the helicopter, whether we're adulticiding or not. They feel that that whatever we're doing, we're taking care of the mosquitoes, and we have a great reputation with all of our county commissioners, our board of directors, and everybody in the county. We're very well known that mosquito control is there, and I think BTI has a lot to do with that. Next slide, please. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Mikki, so much. Again, if you have any questions for Mikki, please just put them in the chat. We have 1 or 2 minutes left in her time.
I do want to go to the next slide because I did have a lot of help from my executive director, Andrea Leal. I'm standing in here for her today. Of course, she's the best, but Larry Reeve, our director of research, is always, actually, he was involved in the early 2000s research, and we couldn't have been as far as we are without him.
Great. Perfect. Well, I don't see any questions, so thank you, Mikki. I will let you jump off because I know someone else has to jump on the same camera. So thank you. All right, our next speaker is Adriane Rogers. She has a Master of Science degree in entomology from the University of Nebraska and has worked in the mosquito control industry for 18 years. She began her career as a research and surveillance entomologist for the Florida Keys Mosquito Control in Key Largo, Florida. And then she left the Keys to serve as the state of Florida's medical entomologist and as a bureau chief at the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, where she was the subject matter expert in mosquito control. In that role, she worked with state and federal partners to secure grant funding opportunities to improve mosquito surveillance and control infrastructure throughout Florida. She's also chaired the Florida Coordinating Council on Mosquito Control and has served on local, state, and national advisory panels representing Florida's mosquito control activities along with their preparedness and response to national disasters and public health threats. Since then, she is the executive director for the Pasco County Mosquito Control District, and we are very excited to have her talk to us about how she communicates vector control and BTI to the community. So, Adriane, thank you for joining us. Can you hear us?
Beth, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Again, like what I explained to Mikki, maybe moving in a little bit
Lost my audio
closer.
here. Give me 1 second. I apologize.
Sure. We can hear. Well, you have muted.
Beth, can you hear me now?
Yes. As I mentioned to Mikki, maybe if you
Beth, can you
scoot
hear
a
me?
little bit closer to your computer so that, yes, it's a little low.
Beth, if you can hear
Can
me,
you
I'm
see your
going to try
slide?
to log out and jump back in. See if that works.
Okay. We can hear you. If you're just joining us, Adriane is having some technical difficulties, but I think we have her back. Can you hear us?
Beth, can you hear me? I still can't hear you. Give me a moment.
Let's see. We can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I think I've got you.
Okay, perfect. I've got your presentation up and ready for you. I am going to hand the floor over to you. I've already done an introduction for you, so we're ready for you to start whenever you're ready.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I apologize for the confusion there. Here's post the frequency at which we've had to host these virtual meetings. You'd think we'd have it down by now, but I apologize again. So thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. My name is Adriane Rogers, and I am currently serving as the Executive Director for the Pasco County Mosquito Control District. In the 18 years that I've been in the Florida mosquito control community, I've spent a lot of time trying to effectively communicate to a variety of different audiences on mosquito biology and ecology, the protection of public health through vector control, to spread awareness for mosquito-borne disease, and to promote integrated mosquito management techniques. Today, I'm hoping to impart some of that wisdom that I've learned throughout the years and discuss some of the challenges that we face in conveying a science-based technical operation. Thank you. As a brief overview, you gain an insight and understanding of how to communicate effectively mosquito control strategies, especially in the context of public health pesticide use, environmental considerations, and fiscal responsibility. Next slide, please. Community engagement is tremendously important when trying to effectively communicate about vector control. For those of you who are trying to convince jurisdictions of the necessity to start a mosquito control program and the importance of providing that vital public health protection to your citizens, and trying to get the buy-in of policymakers and other community leaders within your area, to those of you who may already have a well-established program looking to remain relevant and keep the public's trust, educating individuals at all levels within your community is key. The public plays a crucial role in support or even opposition of our vector control programs. Lack of awareness for the role mosquitoes play in public health and misunderstandings about mosquito control efforts can lead to challenges and resistance against your program and the services that you're trying to provide for the betterment of your citizens. Being open, honest, and transparent and engaging with your community early and often builds trust, increases public understanding of your methodologies, and leads to a much more collaborative and cooperative arrangement in successful mosquito control programs. Next slide. At our program, Pasco County, Florida, we utilize a well-balanced, science-based approach and best management practices for mosquito control and employ a fully comprehensive integrated mosquito management regime. So what is integrated mosquito management? I heard one of the prior speakers sort of gave an overview of this already, but integrated mosquito management is a comprehensive approach to mosquito control that combines a variety of different methods: surveillance, monitoring mosquito populations, actively looking for mosquito-borne disease presence, source reduction or eliminating mosquito habitat, biological control using natural predators on mosquitoes like gambusia fish species, or using biorational larvicides such as BTI, to target mosquitoes in that immature stage before they become flying and biting adults and have the potential to be a major nuisance or spread deadly diseases. Chemical control using targeted pesticide applications by ground or by air. Public education, inform the community about the importance of mosquito control efforts in protecting public health and how they can prevent mosquito production and protect themselves from mosquito exposure. Resistance monitoring to ensure that the chemicals that you're using are actually going to remain effective at killing mosquitoes and so that you're not wasting your resources. New product and equipment testing, looking for innovative strategies to add to your program. Using an integrated mosquito management approach is a scientifically proven, environmentally responsible way to combat mosquito-borne disease. Next slide, please. Mosquitoes are, for humans, pets, and livestock, at best an annoyance, at worst, vectors of very deadly diseases. Next slide. We often face the challenge of dealing with people who dislike pesticides. This can be due to concerns about the potential health risks, environmental damage, or the impacts on beneficial insects and ecosystems, which can lead to desire for safer, more sustainable mosquito control methods. This challenge always boils down to balancing public health with environmental sensitivity. Most people don't know the mosquito's involvement in vectoring diseases like dengue, West Nile virus, Zika, Eastern equine encephalitis virus, and other serious life-altering conditions. You have to first inform the public about these diseases and the magnificent menace that is the mosquito. Vector control programs are essential to protecting public health and preventing the spread of these diseases. But we also must be environmental stewards and control mosquitoes responsibly, while not causing undue harm to ecosystems or other organisms, especially things like beneficial pollinators. The products used for mosquito control, the amount of product used in mosquito control applications, the timing of applications, use of biopesticides like BTI, these are all things that you really have to convey to the public and inform them of. We're not just out there indiscriminately spraying pesticides and killing everything within our paths. We're much more selective and responsible than that. When people express concerns about pesticide use, you have to be open and honest with them. Tell them about the steps that you take to address these commonly misunderstood issues. Tell them how the timing of the applications, the use of ultra low volume spray to kill adult mosquitoes, With the time that we're making those applications, bees and butterflies are not out foraging, and therefore they're not being impacted by the application, as an example. Explain to people how modern vector control practices use precision GPS-guided mapping systems that can reduce drift potential to non-target areas, or that the amount of chemical used to kill adult mosquitoes equates to 2 ounces or a shot glass full of chemical per an area the size of an entire football field. Next slide, please. It's also important to be transparent about your operations, show fiscal responsibility, and be good stewards of public funds. As vector control programs, you're likely funded through some form of public funding mechanism, just as the programs are here in the state of Florida in the United States. And we have limited resources, of course. You must do what you can to maximize the effectiveness of those limited resources. Communicate the challenges with the public that you have with those limitations so that they can see how you're managing programs and can provide added support. Stress the importance of efficient and targeted control methods and use new technologies and innovative strategies to increase those efficiencies. Inform the public that surveillance and community input are both important considerations in allocating those very limited resources most effectively. You have to have a pulse on the ever-changing and evolving needs of your community. Where I'm located in West Central Florida, our community is one of the fastest growing counties in America right now. And as more people are moving to the area, more communities are being developed, the landscape is very rapidly changing, and so are the dynamics of the people that are now occupying this area. You have to regularly engage with your stakeholders to understand how things are changing and adapt to those changes appropriately. You cannot remain stagnant. You must balance the cost of operations with those evolving needs. If you're transparent with how you're spending the money, then the community will see your constraints and they'll have a vested interest in increasing those funds or helping you to increase those funds to promote public health initiatives in combating mosquito-borne diseases. I'm fortunate to have some incredibly talented craftsmen on staff and the facilities to be able to service, maintain, and even fabricate equipment. We build equipment in-house, which translates to a significant cost savings to the public. If you're able to do that, if you're able to build equipment in-house or work on your equipment in-house, highlight those initiatives and the successes that you have in doing that. Tell your citizens about the ways that you're able to save them money by being responsible and taking cost savings approaches to your operations. Another great way to enact cost saving strategies is to partner with other agencies or local community groups for education or to share resources. We all have constraints and limited resources, and if we can pool those very limited resources and work together so that we're not duplicating efforts, that really helps and goes a long way in reducing some of the costs to your own organization. Next slide, please. Addressing the public's concerns is important in communicating pesticide use. Being open and honest about the products used, the amount of product that you're using in an application, the timing of the applications, what to expect, all of these details are important to help you set the appropriate expectation with your community. Talk about the research that's been done on the products that you're using. Talk about the label, specific requirements. It's the preponderance of scientific evidence that's important. Now, we've got keyboard warriors these days that can always find something, one single piece of what they're calling evidence to support their line of thinking, but that really doesn't mean that's the most appropriate piece of evidence. It's certainly may not even be remotely factual. And so, there are numerous non-target studies on the chemicals that we use for mosquito control available. There are even more studies on the effectiveness of those products and how they work in controlling mosquitoes that are readily available. Use that information. Point to that information and when people express those concerns about pesticide usage. Also, be sure to bring the conversation back to protecting public health. With over 700,000 people dying annually across the globe from the bite of an infected mosquito and hundreds of thousands more that are impacted by mosquitoes, this is the necessity for mosquito control applications. And this is a consistent message that you should be using in all of your interactions with the community. Always bring it back to the protection of public health. Stress the importance of using chemical control methods in addition to all the other tools that you have at your disposal, and to reduce mosquito populations, again, for the protection of public health. Stress that importance. Offer clear and concise explanations as to the regulatory process and the rigorous screening that's conducted on pesticides before they're available for us to utilize. Create educational materials for distribution that are easily digestible by the general public. The layperson who very likely does not have a scientific background, don't use mosquito-specific jargon, or they won't understand what you're trying to communicate. There are specific terms we use: larvicide, adulticide, integrated mosquito management. These are not commonly known terms, and so you really need to make sure that you're using language that they can easily understand. Be concise. Use simple language and visuals to explain these complex issues that we're using for mosquito control. If you don't have time or the staff to create educational materials, use some of the resources that are already readily available out there for use. The American Mosquito Control Association, as an example, has some really great flyers, handouts, other educational tools that you can utilize, as well as other organizations like the WHO and others. And so you use those materials that are already available. You don't have to create your own material or reinvent the wheel, especially for those of you with very, very limited resources and small staff. Create a website for information. Utilize social media platforms to reach a larger audience. Hold community meetings or virtual workshops like the one we're doing today. Allow citizens to ask questions and seek their input. Next slide, please. You need to build community awareness and education programs. An informed public is a supportive public. You have a lot of knowledge to impart on mosquitoes, mosquito control, and your specific operations. Tell your story and educate your community. Engage the public and inform them that they have a personal responsibility in protecting public health. Teach them how to prevent mosquito breeding habitats around their homes and businesses by emptying water holding containers. Instruct them on the appropriate use of insect repellent and other personal protective measures that they can take to limit their exposure to mosquitoes. Build that website, use social media platforms, engage the media to share information. Host or participate in community events, set up a table with displays and flyers, some promotional items, even just business cards and a flyer stating who you are, and just get them to your table and start an open conversation and just start communicating with them. Inform them of what you're doing there and how you're providing this vital public health service in the community. Bring people to your facility, show them firsthand what you do to protect public health. At my program in West Central Florida, we offer tours of the facilities like the one here in this picture. This is through our educational trailer. And we seek opportunities to get in front of the community at various group opportunities, such as school groups, summer camps. We talk to civic groups, government organizations, homeowners associations, other networking groups, really anything that you can get in front of a group of your constituents or other stakeholders in your community to inform them about the importance of mosquito control and what it is that you do specifically with your program. Excuse me, next slide. To be effective in your messaging, you have to dedicate time to positive messaging. Again, the focus should always be that mosquito control efforts protect public health. Start there. Build messaging around that core concept. Create content that's engaging and educational. Use things that are relevant in your community. If you attend events or have speaking engagements, create posts about your involvement in those community events. Show them that you're engaged and invested in the community and a part of the community, and really have that interest in protecting public health. Most importantly, listen to your citizens. Seek opportunities to collect feedback so that you can make improvements to your operation. Address concerns that you hear about by showing how their feedback impacts the decisions that you're making operationally. Here's a screenshot from my program's Facebook page. just a simple plug there. Go ahead and follow us. Pasco Mosquito is where you'll find us. And we aim to educate and inform. We have short videos from the staff about different mosquito species. This is the mosquito of the month that we started recently. Our entomologist gets on and talks very briefly about a specific species every month, just to, again, educate the public. We talk about disease situations or hurricane recovery efforts. We post photos of staff participating in community events and hosting facility tours. We spotlight staff and their outstanding achievements. We try to create content that is of interest to the community and relevant. Try to make it a little personalized so that there's a human aspect in what we're doing. We're people too. Try to make it so that they have some sort of connection and vested interest in what you're doing. Excuse me, next slide. Community engagement works. Involving local stakeholders is effective at spreading awareness. Establishing those connections early and under normal operational situations is really key. Last year, within my jurisdiction, we had locally acquired dengue virus cases. And during that situation, when we first learned of it, I wasn't panicked to try to figure out who do I need to contact with the Department of Health? Who do I need to contact to get messaging out? I already knew which person at the respective agencies I needed to connect with because I already had established relationships ahead of time with these individuals. During the emergency is never the time to try to find the right person that you need and make and establish that connection. We really need to put in some legwork ahead of time so that when the emergency situation arises, it's a lot easier to control messaging. It's a lot easier, smoother transition to effectively perform your mitigative response when you know exactly who to contact at what organization or agency. As a result, the need for increased communication and the spread of community awareness for what we were experiencing with locally acquired cases of dengue, we created a working group called the Pasco One Health Alliance. So this is just an example which brings together the local health officer, mosquito control, emergency management, animal services, local hospitals and veterinarians, human services, homeless coalition, a variety of different stakeholders that have some involvement in human, animal, or environmental health within Pasco County so that we're all working together. We can communicate effectively. We can share vital information during these emergency situations, inform them that we have local transmission of dengue, inform the physicians that they need to start actively looking for people coming into their care, seeking care with symptoms that are consistent with dengue, because that dengue is not considered endemic in Florida at this time. And so they're not actively looking for dengue. And dengue has symptoms that are very similar to many other things that we do commonly have here in Florida on a consistent basis. And so, we're missing a lot of those diagnoses because there may just not be informed to look for it. And so this is a great opportunity for us to share that information so that the local medical community is actively looking for it. We have quarterly meetings to educate the members on these important issues, the services that we provide, and to share information. And we only have so many people that view our website every year or follow us on social media. But if you put together all of these different stakeholder groups, the reach that the potential for spreading that information and disseminating it to the community is much, much greater when you're combining all of these resources. And so we can help share each other's information and get that out to a much larger community base. More effectively and much more expeditiously in overall protecting public health within our community. This has proven to be a successful approach for us and has worked in our area, and it's something that we're going to continue to pursue. Next slide, please. Challenges in engaging the community and effectively communicating about the importance of mosquito control and your operation will most certainly arise. Misinformation will inevitably be spread, but it's how you deal with that misinformation that matters. Excuse me. You have to combat misinformation using facts and be very clear in your explanations. Again, you want to bring that messaging, you want it to be concise and easily understood. Don't use terms that are specific to mosquito control, because especially during an emergency situation, you want your community to understand what you're telling them and how they can mitigate the risk. And so you want them to understand what it is that you're talking about. Rely on local media to spread messaging quickly. During disease situations, I put out press releases. I do this to try to get ahead of the situation and control the messaging. I want to be the one telling the story because I'm the one that has the facts. I know what it is that we're doing operationally. So I put that message out to our local media community to inform them of the issue. For example, when we had the local transmission of dengue virus last year, we had cases identified. I wanted to spread awareness about the risk of further transmission, to inform the public of our increased control efforts in these areas so that we could combat the spread of dengue, and to educate people on preventative measures and limiting their exposure to the dengue vector mosquito. When people push back, keep your cool. That's tremendously important. Try to de-escalate any situation if tensions are high, and provide scientific evidence and the facts in your response. You have to be patient, you have to be respectful, open-minded to address the concerns that they have. If you don't know the answer to something, don't make up an answer. That's certainly the worst thing that you could do in the situation. You want to provide solely the facts and information that you know. Again, always bring it back on focusing on public health. Next slide. In summary, I hope that you found this presentation to be a comprehensive, approachable framework for introducing effective communication strategies for mosquito control, and helping to understand both the challenges and some of the best management practices for engaging your communities. Key points to remember: effective communication builds trust, it fosters community support, and helps ensure the success of your mosquito control program. Integrated mosquito management is about using a variety of tools, with pesticide use being merely but one of those tools available for use in the larger picture. Transparency, education, and community involvement are crucial in addressing concerns about pesticide use and environmental impact of integrated mosquito management program. Collaboration and careful stewardship of public funds are both essential for building sustainable, effective vector control programs. And lastly, always approach mosquito control as a shared responsibility. The public, local government, vector control professionals must continuously work together for the overall health and safety of our community. Everyone has a role to play, and that's vitally important in harnessing those relationships and utilizing some of those other stakeholder groups. Last slide. And with that, I very much appreciate your attention this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adriane. We appreciate you giving all that information. I know you have a ton of experience handling the community and pushbacks and all that stuff, so we really appreciate all the tips that you provided. I think we have, let's see. Someone asked if they could see that poster larger that is in the corner of this slide. We can send that. We're going to be posting, if we have all the speakers' permissions, their PowerPoint presentations on the website. So you should be able to see it then. If not, I will make sure I connect you and Adriane, Wendy, to get that image for you guys. Thank you.
And my contact information is here on this slide. So if you want to give me a little bit more specific information on which poster you're referencing, I can get that over to you, no problem.
Thanks, Adriane. That's awesome. Oh, did she say, I think she means the poster in her office? No, it's in
this
the
actually
slide.
is my office. So I can speak about the posters here.
Thank you again, Adriane. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, that is our summit. We have had all of our speakers. If you guys have any more questions, we'll be happy to reach out to any of the speakers that were on here. So feel free to reach out to either Maria or Santosh with any of those questions if we didn't get them answered. With that, thank you all for participating, and we will have this on the website within the next probably around Monday or Tuesday of next week at the latest. So thank you very much and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.